message, and now that person comes back in the afternoon. So they're getting more repetition at their exhibit at the trade show. And this is an example. A lot of times we're using mobile to capture email to build an email list, but in this case we're using email to build the mobile list, and it can be done. You can take your existing email database and get them to opt into your mobile database. You just have to make sure that you have a good incentive, that there's some reason for people to do this. So some trends we've been seeing. Like I said in our survey, we got a lot of questions about what's going on, how's the industry changing, what should we be watching. What we see are still, and this has really been this way since we got involved with SMS marketing, incentive and promotion are key. They're the most important part of any text messaging campaign. We've seen what works. We've seen what doesn't work. You've got to have a good incentive. You've got to have good promotion of the campaign. If you miss one of those, the campaign may not fly. If you miss both of those, you can just forget it. So you've got to have those set up well. SMS really isn't always about the outbound. So a lot of clients call us and they're very focused on how can we send our audience text messages. And there's a lot of value in that, don't get me wrong, but there's also a lot of value in engaging your audience. So we talked about the email capture. Some of our clients are capturing email address because they don't really have a reason to text. They don't want to send them text messages. They want to stick to email right now. So they're using text messaging for that. We talked about the voting. In the case of the voting, you know, your goal may not be sending out lots and lots of text messages. It's just a better way to engage your audience. Another thing we're noticing, and this is, let's say, increasing, or fear is decreasing. So the audience is less and less scared of SMS. I think when we got involved in this 4 or 5 years ago, there was always this thought that, all right, my audience is going to be scared to receive text messages from me. We don't want to do that. We're going to bother them. Less and less people are worried about that. People are more willing to join text messaging campaigns than ever before. They're more willing to stick around and listen to what you have to say via text message than ever before. So your audience is not scared of text messaging. However, if you send them purely sales and marketing messages over and over, you will lose them. They will opt out. So you still have to be careful, just like with email marketing. You have to respect your list. The fourth thing that we're seeing, it's still, and this is after several years, it's still a relatively untapped space. The clients we have who are using text messaging and some of these campaigns that I've talked about, they have few competitors who are doing this. Sometimes they don't have any competitors who are doing this. So, you know, in the case of the retail business who is getting 400 to 500 opt-ins a week, I don't think that that business has any competitor who is doing this right now. So they're getting a lot of success from being the first one to do this. If you're the only one out in the market building your mobile list, you're going to build it a lot faster than if all your competitors are trying to do it at the same time. So it's still relatively untapped that way, and that's good. And that helps us show a lot of success to clients who are giving it a try. What we expect to see in the future, the question was me getting a lot from the survey. Some trends. I see more email capture. I think that using text messaging to capture email is a really good combination. Text messaging is immediate. It's in your pocket. If you're standing at an event or you're watching a TV commercial or you're listening to the radio, it's really easy to get out your phone and text in. Email is great because you can deliver more information that way, especially for social. So a lot of our clients who are capturing email address, when they send them that first email, it's saying, you know, again, follow us on Facebook or check out our Pinterest page. So I think that you're going to see more and more email and text messaging working together. Voting seems to be something that we get more and more calls about. So I think in both of these, I put death to the clipboard. I think 1 and 2 are really just ways to use text messaging to replace the old-fashioned clipboard. We've got some nonprofits who are using text messaging for petitioning. So they go to events and they say, hey, if you want to sign our petition, text your full name, and they're using it that way. So I think that's going to be a trend that continues. It's just more efficient. It's easier on volunteers. Traditional media, I think there's going to be more SMS call to actions in traditional media. We see more of our clients doing it, and I know when I'm watching TV or listening to the radio, I'm hearing more businesses and nonprofits do it. So I think that's going to continue to grow. It's easier for them to measure in a lot of cases. You know, if you just send them to your website, it's hard to tell what radio station they came from or what television spot they saw. But if you have them text a keyword, you know exactly what they were watching when they did it. The final trend is, and we get questions about this a lot, text messaging. Is it being replaced by all these other apps? There's other texting apps that the kids are starting to use. Is SMS going away? There's some stories coming out that there's been a little bit less SMS usage over the past year than the year before, and that's true. And the kids are using other apps to communicate, whether it's Facebook or other text messaging apps. But text messaging isn't really going anywhere. I mean, it's the most dominant platform out there right now on the phone. It's the most used app on smartphones right now. And it's kind of like when people ask me about this, I always say, well, remember how many things were going to replace email back in the day? You know, all these things were going to replace email, whether it was Facebook or whether it was AOL Instant Messenger or something. You know, oh, your email. But email's still here. And I think that we're going to more and more, we're going to see that text messaging is the email of the phone. It's not glamorous. It's not new, but it's reliable, and it can have great effects on marketing. So I don't think it's going anywhere, and that's how I answer that question. The next one here. I just want to finish up, and I always do this when I'm talking to people about text message marketing. I kind of get the feeling that they're unsure of where to start. So I wanted to just throw in one last slide here. If you're thinking about how can I use SMS to increase marketing goals, or in the case of alerts, how can I use SMS to engage my audience? Here are 3 things to think about. 3 areas that I always talk about. 1, traditional media, TV, radio, outdoor, print. It's a great place to use SMS to engage your audience. If they're watching your TV spot, if they're listening to your radio, if they're looking at your print ad, whatever it might be, that phone is always going to be the easiest thing for them to grab to engage. And text messaging is going to be the easiest thing for them to do on that phone. And it's much easier than calling now is to send a text message to get a mobile coupon or to enter to win. So think about traditional media. If you're doing that, there's an opportunity to use SMS. Events, like I mentioned with a couple of these case studies, they've been done at events. Nonprofits do it at events. Even B2B businesses do it at events. So if you have an event, you've got people standing around with a phone in their hand, that's an opportunity to use SMS to build the list, or in the case of the trade shows, to send the text messages. Finally, foot traffic. So I didn't pick one of our restaurant case studies, but we've got a lot of restaurants who are using text messaging to build their database at the restaurant. So you sit down at a table and there's a table tent there and it says, hey, text in for an offer good on your next visit or whatever it might be. So if you've got people walking through your location every day, standing around, waiting in line, sitting at a table, there's an opportunity to engage those people with SMS as well. So I wanted to bring up those 3 things if you're thinking about how can I get involved. I think I am 2.5 minutes early finishing up. So let's go to questions here. Just checking Twitter in the chat window. So we've got a question about short codes. It's a question we get a lot. I should have probably thrown it in for starting text messaging the first time. The question is, do we have to get our own 5-digit short code to begin a text messaging campaign? And the answer is no, you don't. A lot of services like ours, we bring clients onto one of our short codes that already exist. We give our clients a keyword on that short code. So if your business is Bob's Pizza, maybe your keyword is Bob's, and when you text Bob's to the short code, they get the appropriate response and they're added to the account. So you do not have to get your own short code. It's very costly to get your own short code. It's not something that most businesses are going to bother doing. You're going to share a short code on a service